Welcome to the Mental Advantage Podcast. Whether you're an athlete trying to perform at your best when it counts the most, a coach or business leader trying to get more out of your team, or someone looking for more personal growth, this is the place for you. This podcast is your map to guide you to the right mindset, systems, and strategies you need to become the best version of yourself. Now, here are your hosts, John Cullen and Brandon Allen.
All right, welcome to the Mental Advantage Podcast. We've got a special guest for you guys today. Shawn Lopez is not only a really, really good coach of both baseball and softball. I mean, he's almost 31 years of coaching just coming off of a state championship, 6A state championship out in Kansas at Olathe Northwest High School, where he also won the 6A softball coach of the year. But he's also a former teammate and good friend of Brandon and I's, but really, really happy to have Shawn on.
Yeah, Pez, it's great to have him on and to get caught up. Ravens had a great year last year, winning the state title. Get to hear from Shawn on some of the ways that not only he rose through his coaching ranks and how he got started in that, but also what I thought was really interesting was when he talks about him and his daughter and some of the things that they had to navigate early on. And then he ends up being able to coach her in high school, which is really cool. And she's gone on to do some really good things at Butler Community. But I think the listeners will really enjoy kind of hearing Shawn's journey and be really interested to see how he's evolved over the 30 plus years of coaching.
Yeah, and great points there, because I think one of the things I really liked about this is going to be for our listeners. It may be a little bit of a different show in that you're going to really hear, I think, a lot of the, to your point, Brandon, how he's evolved as a coach, but just understanding that, with these coaches to get to be successful, we're seeing the finished product, but a lot of times they're starting out at a very young age, right, working different roles with different programs, being willing to learn and grow from where you are, and understanding, as we talk about all the time, learning is not linear. There's lots of different things that you can take from each position you had, good, bad, or indifferent. He shares some of that, but I think it's a really good piece as he walks us through some of the dynamics that, has allowed him, because of that evolution and the different roles he's had, that is what has allowed him to be so successful at the program he is now in Kansas, Olathe Northwest. So get your pen and paper ready, because here is Shawn Lopez. All right. Well, as you heard from that introduction, man, we are so fired up to have our next guest on for lots of reasons, but mainly because he's such a great friend and former teammate of ours. Shawn Lopez. Welcome, Pez. We're so excited to have you on the show.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me. I really appreciate it. It's a great opportunity to talk to some old friends of mine. And
emphasis, emphasis on the old.
Hey, I'm feeling it too. So we're all about the same age. So
excellent. Well, we've got so much to talk to you about and so many things to catch up on. I mean, first of all, as the listeners heard in the introduction there, congrats on the 6A state championship. And oh, by the way, Brandon, coach of the year too. That's not a bad thing. So, a lot of good things happening for you out there. And, one of the things that I wanted to dig into just kind of right off the bat here, we played together in the early 90s and graduated mid 90s. Then you went on and coached there. Was Coach Randall, was he still the coach at Kansas when you were helping out with them?
Yes, he was the head coach, Bobby Randall. And Wilson Kilmer was the pitching coach, who I also learned quite a bit from.
Is that right? What was the, I think I kind of know, both of us probably know the answer to this, but for the listener's sake, what was your drive to get into coaching? What was it about? Was there a certain inspiration you had growing up that, or you just always knew, or what made you catch that bug?
Well, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. So I think after I finished up playing at Charleston, I kind of had the I didn't get drafted blues.
Yeah.
and but I channeled that into hitting 500 that summer, so that worked out. Didn't pay very well, but I did well. And then I just didn't want it to end.
Yeah.
It's like the one thing that I felt like I was really confident at. Hopefully I'm good at it, but confident anyway. It was baseball at the time, and I just want to stick with it and give it a shot, give it a go, and see what I can do. And so when I transferred back from Charleston to the University of Kansas, I changed my major probably for like the 9th time, as students tend to do.
Right. No, as baseball students tend to do. Let's clarify that.
They're like, what do you want to major in? You're like, well, what do you got?
Right. What's going to keep me?
Well, hey, how close am I? Yeah. Look at my transcript.
What can I do to be eligible?
Yeah. Right. What gets me out of here before a doctor?
Right. So I transferred to KU and changed my major, and coaching was part of that. And so I was like, they offer this. I was like, this is awesome, and it was incredible. And during that time, I had one of the requirements was to coach a youth team of some sort, and it's open-ended, just like get involved with a youth team, and that's part of the deal. And so I'm thinking youth team, I just finished playing D1 ball.
Right. What am I doing with this?
I coach a bunch of 6-year-olds. I didn't, 21 years old. I don't know what I'm doing. Right. So I reached out to I asked first and reached out to the high school coach there in Lawrence at Lawrence High, Lynn Herod. And he's like, absolutely. Yeah. Well, we take a volunteer coaches back when they could do it. And,
yeah.
And, I was like, that's awesome, and so like kind of my first gig, it was like, and, I think that was 95. And all of a sudden your listeners went,
trust me, they're used to it.
Like, this guy is old. That was 95, I think. And, I don't know how much help I was, but that year we ended up finishing 3rd in state. And then, the requirement was, I think, to do it for like, I don't even know, 3 months or something. So I did it for 2 years because,
always overachieving.
Yeah. Anytime you can do free work, that's right. Awesome. So,
was there something, Pez, that surprised you about, like, when you got into that, when you first started into it, right? Was there anything that you either expected and it wasn't there, or something maybe that you didn't expect and was there? Was there something that was like, wow, I wasn't sure this would be a part of it?
You mean at that time or
yeah, just in general, when you first started kind of getting into the whole coaching aspect of it?
Not really. It's kind of what I expected. But you don't really know what you don't know until you know it.
That's it.
That makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, I'm green. I didn't know what I'm doing. I'm like, hey, what do you want me to do? I'm here to help. And
right.
They're like, I don't know, hit fungos or, whatever.
Yeah, right.
They're like, well, I'm not sure I know how to do that.
Can you throw BP, that kind of thing?
Yeah. Like I throw as hard as I can throw.
Right.
I don't give cookies. Like, it's not what I do. And, so yeah, it was just kind of just almost just sitting back and kind of finding my place in my role, and a lot of it was observing too, and seeing how they coached and how they worked with their players, and I think you guys have both coached. And so, you, when you're starting out, you don't, all you have to go on is what basically education wise, but your previous coaches
right
are really big,
right
big influences, whether it's positive or negative.
right
And a lot of times it's negative, frankly, and so, for the past, at that point in time, probably for the past 5 years, I've been thinking about, kind of, hey, if I ever get into coaching, I am not doing that.
Right.
Or that was pretty good. I liked what he did there. Or, those things. And kind of, I don't know if I actually wrote it down, but making mental notes and just kind of developing over time, kind of what kind of coach I wanted to be.
You're trying to define your identity as a coach, which is really difficult especially when you're as young as you are and as competitive as you are. Cause I know I struggled, the first few years coaching was very difficult because I had never had my success on a field be tied to other people and their work ethic, right? Because to your point, you especially in high school, you don't really have an identity as a player. You may be competitive, and if you're going to go on and play, you're one of the better guys on your team. And then you get to college and you're around pretty like-minded people, and then you're in charge of this team. And it is really hard to find that level of empathy as a coach, especially when you have that that competitive fire still in you. And and what really was, to me, one of the most difficult things to come to grips with was there are people that do things that don't have any desire to be great. They are okay with just doing them. And I could never figure it out. That was something I always struggled with. And it was one of the things that, quite honestly, during tryouts, I would try to weed kids out, basically saying, look, if you don't have this desire, I don't know that we're gonna jive. Right. Yeah. I mean, that's it's just finding that identity. It's tough.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of those things that you just look for, what I want to be. How do I want to do things? Do I want to do this or do I want to do that? And then you're also getting just basic ideas of, hey, this drill was good. I think I could run this. Maybe, you don't know.
Right.
And until you act, it's like you start a new job and they're like, you're going through training and they're like, no, don't do that. And you're like, what do you mean? I'm just sitting here. I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
You have no idea until you kind of start actually getting into it and actually doing it and doing it wrong a few times and
sure.
And everything. So I think early on, some coaches talk about, well, at the end of the year, I self-reflect and see how the year went and all that kind of thing. And I think early on it was more like how did today go? It was like a daily reflection.
Right. It was better than yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah. And then some days it was like, man, today was not good.
Yeah.
And, but I wouldn't go, man, that was just bad. I'm just a terrible coach. It was like, I got to be better. How can I be better?
Right.
Well, all of a sudden,
what went well, what didn't go well.
No question. And all of a sudden, those skills that got you, or that ability to self-reflect that got you to where you were as a player, it just takes over.
Yeah, for sure.
And now all of a sudden you're like, okay, I know I'm not the coach today that I'm going to be in 5 years or 10 years or 15 years, but how can I get better today than I was yesterday or last week or whatever the case may be? Because that's what made you great as a player, and it's what is ultimately going to make you great as a coach and has. How did you go from Lawrence High School and then all of a sudden now you're, with Coach Randall at UK and kind of doing some of that stuff? Or KU, right?
Okay, so
I don't want to get that wrong. I'm going to get all the people from Kansas to send in emails.
Well, they're waiting to hear how you pronounce.
That's right.
That
I'm going to nail that.
Yeah.
I can't.
Okay. All right.
Been practicing for a week.
Hey, listen, all the fan mail, all the disgruntled mail goes to John Cullen.
That's right.
Sorry, go ahead, John or Pez.
Yeah, they had so as part of my degree, it was we had to do it's kind of like it was kind of like a graduate assistant. We had to do something. I don't even remember what it was.
Oh wow.
And it was for a semester.
Okay.
And so I approached Coach Randall and Coach Kilmer at the University of Kansas, and I was like, this is what I've been doing for the past 2 years. This is my degree. This is what's necessary. Do you have can I help?
Right. Can I get a slot?
Can this do, it's whatever it would be. And had that conversation and it was only needed to do it for a semester, but again, why work for money when you can work for free? So, that's a theme in my life. And, so I went in at the beginning of the year, during the fall season and started then. So I did basically fall and then spring so I did the whole year, kind of
okay.
Did the whole thing. And they were fantastic. And I did everything from throwing batting practice to, and sometimes poorly, and most of the time actually.
Yeah.
But to grounds maintenance and recruiting. I scheduled games, scheduled hotels. I went on trips with it was like they just embraced me kind of as a coach and everything. And
very cool.
Did you ever negotiate free drinks at Ryan's Steakhouse for your team?
Or did you set up the Apex deal with
Yeah. I was in talks with Apex and something happened. They might have went under. I don't know. But it was I thought I had their signature that day.
Right there. Yeah, they couldn't get the t-shirts out in time.
Yeah, they couldn't make the cleats stiff enough.
Yeah. Exactly.
They ran out of those acupuncture nails in the bottom of the shoe. Oh God.
So you get a lot of experience here with Coach Randall, and did you have any desire or thoughts of hey, I would just maybe see if I can stick on here? I mean, that's always the challenge and tough thing about grad assistants is it's limited, right? I mean, there's only so many paid positions they have, and so a lot of times those guys are. And
that was the thing, especially back then, there were 3 total coaches, including Coach Randall, and that were paid. And then we had me and another guy in the similar situation like myself.
Okay.
That were, kind of grunts and working for free. And so there was, really at that point in time, I was graduating. All I had to do was fulfill this deal. And as far as academically, and I was going to graduate. And then, when you graduate, you need money and stuff. So,
right.
It helps.
So from there, I actually got a job at Johnson County Community College.
Yeah.
Okay.
And went back to the school that I played at.
Yeah.
Before Charleston. So that was just the timing of the whole thing worked out. The former coach, Carl Heinrich, was stepping down from coaching and going into being an athletic director at Johnson County. And so he was there, and just all the things, like it all lined up good. So I applied and got hired, and that all worked out.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
So got my first taste of second taste, actually, because I mean there was a whole bunch of a lot of the same stuff that I had already been doing.
Right.
So Pez, does that reinforce, like, at that point you go, okay, these other things were requirements for me to get out here, and now I'm out here. Is that the time where you're like, okay, I think I have found at least what I'm going to do for the next however many years, and now it's 30 plus, but is that the time where you go, okay, this is what I want to do?
Yes, pretty much. Like I was in a good place, I felt. I mean, the bad part is at that time, this is kind of funny. He was like, well, we can hire you. And right now the going rate is, I swear he said $6,000.
Oh, wow.
It might've been 8, but it was
right. It was,
6, 8. We're splitting hairs.
Right.
Yeah. I go, I could probably die on that much money, like,
right.
Like I'll just live.
I mean, ramen per year is at least 6.
You're like, per semester, like what's the
like that per week, no. And so, that was, so we're looking for other options as far as, so I got on maintenance, working grounds and everything. So I did that all morning. And then I coach baseball all afternoon, and then I go recruit all evening. And then so it was a, kind of a grind, and
it really is. I mean, that JUCO route, man, I know when we had Tyler Gillum, of course, who is now more infamous for being the Savannah Bananas coach than he is the JUCO coach that we interviewed on the podcast. Right. Well, although he was the Savannah Bananas coach when we interviewed him, but he was talking about the same thing. It was like, he's coaching, but he's also doing all the work stuff, and there's a lot to it. I mean, but I think it gives you probably even more of an appreciation for all of those experiences when you do become a head coach yourself for the first time, but then also even, I mean, as crazy as it sounds, being at a 6A high school in Kansas is from a facility standpoint and all that's probably like, you're looking back saying, this is even better than what I was dealing with back when I was first kind of getting into coaching,
Yeah, Johnson County has tremendous facilities, and it's very much like Charleston, when we were there, and then they were what they were with
first base was a little bit longer than it should be, and
second base was a
sand pit,
92 feet, and,
just the little details.
The fact that I stole any bases there was amazing. I should put it that way. So, but I don't even know what I was going to say.
No, it's good, and I'm going to
think about Remy's point there. No, I know what I was going to say. So after we leave, and it was several years down the road, but after we leave, then they built this tremendous facility, over at Patriots Point, and it's kind of like, really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that would have been nice. Yeah.
That would have been,
I'd like to go back.
That's a nice field.
Yeah.
Where's the gnats?
Yeah. Right. Exactly. So put the bananas under the bench and see what happens.
Yeah. I always think that it's it's funny. We had Coach Cibiteri on the show, and he was talking about the bananas under the bench story, which was funny, and just the gnats and stuff, which that was a really good episode because you got a chance to go back and listen to kind of his journey coming up through, and you can only imagine the stories that he had to tell, which was really great. I'm going to, just because there's so many things I want to get unpacked here with you, is skip ahead a little bit, but So after Johnson County Community College, you end up becoming the head coach. Well, you take a little bit of a coaching break there, it looks like, and then become the head baseball coach at Washington High and then at Center High School. Maybe just talk a little bit about those experiences, and then we'll get into your transition, which, from baseball to softball.
So I'll skip through a lot of this stuff, but I ended up getting married and having, we had kids and stuff. And we got married in 2000 and had our first child in 05. And then we had, had our second one in 06 and said no mas right there.
Right, exactly.
We're playing man, we're not going zone.
That'll drive me back into coaching.
Yeah, exactly. VA is killing me. But so that was all that was factored into what we were doing at the time.
Right.
And so my brother-in-law got the head football coach job at Washington. And so he calls me up one day and he's like, "Hey, you want to come coach some football?" And I'm like, I played football.
Right.
I was okay, but I've never coached football. And he's like, "Well, you're a coach. You're a good coach. You're, and I had coached in that kind of interim period. I'd coached his son.
Yeah.
And my nephew on his baseball team a couple of years. And so, and he had seen what I do and whatever. And so I was like, "Yeah, sure. Let's, he's like, I'll teach you the X's and O's. And just, I just need someone that I trust and that can coach, that can coach." And I was like, "All right, I'm in. Like, let's do it."
Yeah.
So we went up to school and kind of doing the tour of the thing and met with the athletic director and she ends up saying, she goes, "Well, after some conversation, she goes, well, we need a baseball coach too."
Oh, wow.
And so I'm kind of going, well, it's kind of what I do. So long story short, skip ahead, I got the job. Spoiler alert. So no, and it's kind of an inner city type school here in Kansas City, Kansas. And it was, I don't know. It was good. I think it was good for me. I think it was good for my coaching, my learning, my coaching development.
Right.
And we had some talent, but we had a whole lot of kids that weren't talented baseball wise and maybe talented in other areas, but and so you really have to, figure out a way to reach this kid, but also reach this kid.
Right. Absolutely.
And a lot of in between. And that's one of the things that I think in the middle of it, when I'm kind of going, what are we going to do for practice, or how are we going to have to do this? That was one of my biggest challenges, I think, was, how can we run a drill where, maybe the kid down here doesn't get lit up by a throw from this kid,
Right.
Well, I think it's one of those things, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to say is, I'm a big believer that each step you take, there's always something you're going to pull from it. And I think that idea of meeting the kids where they are, and it kind of goes back to what Brandon was saying there a minute ago, is that, one of the things I learned when I first got into coaching was not high school coaching, I should say. I didn't see this at the college level, of course, because everybody wants to be there, and they're pretty good baseball players and all that. But when I made the transition into high school from college, you find out that some kids they're just playing baseball because it's baseball season, right? Yeah. It's not that this is the most passion that they have about anything in their life. It's that, I've been playing baseball since I was in Little League because it's baseball season. I'll be playing football when it's football season, basketball, so on and so forth. So I do think that's an important lesson that you learn, especially at the high school level, is to say, hey, I still have to coach this person up. And maybe they're top level or their ceiling is going to be different than this player next to them, but they still want to be, I still want to see them be a better player as a senior than they were as a sophomore.
I'll tell you what, they like every one of those kids has a story.
Yeah.
And they, not all of them are good.
Right.
And that's where it was, as a high school coach, you oftentimes are not just the coach, you're maybe a parent, or you're at least in that parental role, and or looked up to as a parent, so to speak, and or someone they trust, or a mentor, or and you're a psychologist, you're not just a sports psychologist, like an actual psychologist,
right.
Yeah.
Dealing with, helping young people through their daily issues that they have, and some of them are heavy, and I mean, parents are incarcerated, we've got family members being murdered, we've got I had a young man that he was late to practice every day, and so I was like, where you been, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, well, I had to go home and get I had to go to these 2 different schools to pick up my siblings and get them home,
right,
feed them, and then make sure that they were taken care of, and then I could come to practice.
Right.
And I was like, you're good. What time can you be here every day?
Right. Yeah. It's good perspective to have. And
good.
No, I was just going to say it's good perspective to have, because I do think, we talk all the time about just having that perspective and knowing it's not the end of the world. At the end of the day, we're playing a game. We want to be competitive. We want to have all these things. You want to develop players. But, in the big picture, to your point, it's like this is pretty small thing compared to, what that kid's going through on a daily
and you're
basis.
developing young men and women. I mean, that at the end of the day, that's, I think, as a coach, and where at least I'm sure, Pez, that there are so many kids now that can look back and go, Coach Lopez provided, whether it was the discipline or the just the love, just some attention and love, right? I mean, I'm sure there are some that are like, man, Coach Pez really knows the game, but more than that, there are probably more kids that go, he really cared. He cared about me. I don't really remember what he taught me in terms of how to steal a base, or, how to do this, that, or the other in the outfield, but he certainly cared about me and my development at a time that I needed him to. And I think that's, at the end of the day, that's really what, as a coach, we're all called to do. And it's, it takes some time to realize that, but
100%. I mean, I had kids that, one kid in particular that he didn't have a way home.
Right.
And so every day after practice, I took him home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's awesome.
And he neglected to tell me that he didn't live in the area when we were set up this arrangement. So every day after you do all the stuff with the coaches do with all the equipment and all the stuff, and then you coach the team and coach the practice, and you pick all this stuff up, and then you got some field maintenance involved and stuff like that. And you got this other kid just hanging out, and you're like, just a second, I'll get you home, and then you get in the car and you're like, where you live? And he's like, oh,
yeah,
15 miles that way,
Oh,
what?
You passed 3 other high schools,
school, or whatever. Like you're,
that's right.
So, but no, that's.
Well, I think
conversations.
I think I know the answer to this question, but somewhere after 22 years of coaching baseball and being around that sport, you then make this transition into softball. What prompted that? I imagine it's 2 daughters will prompt that, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that was the big thing was, what we were doing the t-ball thing, and when they're 6 months old. No, I'm kidding. When they're
in the
old
delivery room.
Yeah. We're like, can you hold this back? So when we were at their young ages, that we were doing the t-ball and the coach pitch and all the things, through the YMCA, just to see if it will, like, is there an interest, or is there more of an interest in the butterflies,
right?
And like, how long can we put up with it until at what point in time do you think that you're ready, and maybe or maybe not, kind of thing. And so we were, I don't even know what year it was, but Claire was, because Peyton's younger, so Claire was invited to join a team that was, I don't know if we call everything competitive ball or travel ball around
here.
Right. If you're 8U, you're not really traveling.
Right.
So, more of a comp team kind of thing.
Yeah.
But were we really competitive? That's loose.
Right. But you weren't rec, right? I mean, that's
rec. Yeah. We're making
I think that's
out of rec where we
yeah.
were going to be playing in tournaments and
right.
So, so she went ahead and did that, and and so of course I get lured into coaching because I couldn't just be a parent, right?
Of course.
And so I was coaching third base, and I'm kind of going, girl comes into third base, I'm holding her up, whatever, and the ball's in left field, and come back to the dugout, and they're like, "Why'd you hold that girl up?" And I'm like, because the girl had the ball, she would have threw her out.
Right. Yeah.
They're like, "She's 7."
Right. Gonna take her 2 throws.
Yeah, send her.
The girl ain't going to throw nobody out.
Right.
Oh, that's funny.
And even if she does, the girl at home's not going to catch it.
Right.
Yeah. So there was some
learning curve,
some instant.
You're coaching against your instincts of what you're used to. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, is it fair? Is it right? And to do that and whatever, and so I'm fighting these things in my head, going, yeah, I could score, but
respect for the game,
respect for the game and all that stuff, and but so there were a little bit of some differences that I had to kind of work out between baseball and softball, and they get to the bases a lot faster even at that age,
right,
because they're shorter, so but it was pretty good for the most part, when you get to coach your own kid, which is you guys know, it's
an experience.
It's amazing when it's done right.
Yep.
And it could be the worst thing in the world if it's done wrong.
Yeah.
And Claire and I had our moment.
Yeah.
At a pretty young age, thankfully, and I kind of realized that it's about her and not about me. And once kind of I had that realization, then our relationship, coach player, coach daughter, dad daughter, and all those 4 entities, kind of all came together, and we've had a good relationship ever since. And
it's good.
Well, you followed her up all the way through into, so the Casey Peppers team, you kind of become the head coach, or at least one of the coaches through that organization for a while. And then once she gets into high school, was it her first year that you're the coach there at Olathe, or when did you?
Yeah, so I was at Center High School coaching baseball, and I was, long story, I'll try to make it short. I was hired, the athletic director there, he was the principal. He was the principal at Center, hired, called me up and says, I need a baseball coach. My baseball coach is retiring or stepping down or whatever. And I'm like, come on, I'm about ready to stop coaching, at that point, and he's like, whatever. Long story, I get hired over there, and I went ahead and took the job. And so I coached there for about 5 years, and the guy that hired me over there gets the athletic director job at Olathe Northwest.
Oh,
okay.
And this guy, he was my catcher at Johnson County.
when
I was playing. So he knows that.
Is this Yar now or no? It's not.
No. This is Joe Gunderson.
Okay.
So he calls me up and one day and he's like, this had been 2019. Okay, so kind of early summer 2019. And he calls me up and he's like, well, Coach Mahoney's going to stepping down from coaching softball, and so I need a new softball coach. And I'm like, well, let me think about it for a few days and see if I can come up with some names to recommend for you. I know it's important. We have a good, especially with my daughter coming in there, that it's
right.
We want to get a good coach in there that, whatever. And he's like, dude, I'm talking about you.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? So, and I've been coaching club ball, at that point, club softball for, I don't even know, 8 years or something at that point. And I was like, well, let me talk to the family about it. And I still have to apply and I still have to go through all the stuff and do all the things and be the right person for the job. And, if the family approves it. So, Claire and I had kind of a sit down and I was like, listen, if I do this and I get it, like, you can't make any mistakes for the next 4 years.
No pressure, but
no pressure, but you have to be, pretty spot on.
You got to be a coach's kid. You got to be on top of your game.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And I just want you to know what you're in for, because, people will come for you. And so anyway,
well, I would say she upheld that end of the bargain, because she's the single season and career stolen base leader, which is no shock to Brandon and I, either one. But, she
takes after her mom.
She did pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
No, her mom running from you is the
right. Exactly. So she did that career, broke that career record with the 2020 COVID year that ended.
Exactly. And that was the thing I was wanting to talk to you about. So let's talk about that. 2020, your first year as a coach, is COVID, and the season's canceled. So, I mean, what was that experience like? I mean, this whole show is about mental performance and kind of like dealing with adversity and being able to adjust and respond and all that. Like, what's it like where you have to go in there and you're like all excited, this is, going to happen, and now no season?
It was, well, frankly, it was devastating. It was, it was not only my first year there, but it was Claire's freshman year, and she was poised to come in and make an immediate impact and a difference right away. And, we were just super excited about the whole process and just getting started. And, when you're, I don't know, when the previous 3 years, you, as kind of as a parent, but also as a coach, and then from her perspective as a player, we were building kind of toward, listen, what do I got to do to kind of make myself good enough to where I can have a opportunity to potentially win a job,
right?
That first year, I got to be pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And, so all of that buildup was like blowing up a balloon. And then one day someone going, and it was just gone. And, that was kind of at least how I felt about the situation. And Claire probably handled it better than I did, but, I don't know. If you remember during that time, they had a lot of videos of college teams, because some of them had played some games
right
already. And so when they found out, they were able to have, call them into the locker room or whatever, or into an office in whatever kind of a meeting room, and meet with them and, have that kind of this is the situation kind of meeting, like the season's done, like just like kind of I don't know if to call it closure, but kind of
laying out kind of where the season and why you got to where you got to, right?
Yeah. And what's going to happen next. And I'm just like, this is, and, and a lot of those meetings were super emotional, and, and what we got was, we're not going to practice on Friday because this happened on Thursday, March 13th. And Friday, so it was the day before spring break started. So we were told that we can't practice tomorrow, which is Friday, and then we go on spring break and there's no spring break practices, and then we'll reevaluate the situation. So there was, we kind of went into it as, well, we're taking a little odd break. It's a little something, but it might last longer than a week. It'll probably, might be 2 weeks. We might be back by, we might miss some games, but whatever. It wouldn't be.
It's not the season.
It's not the season. It's not the, it's not the end of the whole thing. And so consequently, there was no end of the season there was nothing. It was just like, it's over, via text basically, or email, or news report or whatever. And, once what was it? That was the NCAA basketball tournament was canceled.
Yeah.
Like, once that shoe dropped, I was like, oh boy.
Oh boy. Yep.
This is, we may be done.
Yeah.
And so it was super tough. It was rough. And I had to, I'd already checked out uniform. We had 10 days of practice is what we were able to have at that point. And we had a scrimmage. It's, we call it a black and blue scrimmage, and it's, I actually call it the way too early scrimmage, because we have tryouts on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, have a uniform checkout on Thursday, and have a scrimmage on Saturday. And, nobody knows anything. I just throw them out there and say, let's play, let's knock it around and see what happens,
Right.
You can do what. And that year, that was all like the parents got.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And I mean, it's all the kids got, but the parents, the group of parents that were like, I knew a good bit of them from club ball.
Right.
Whether I played with them or played against them, it was, so there was, a good bit, and that was all they got was that one scrimmage that year. And so they were like, I had so many people come up and just say, I'm so glad that, during COVID, I'm so glad that was, that you had had that scrimmage when you did.
Yeah.
And because that's all I had, which kind of sucked.
So Pez, do they come back, or do you come back after the COVID year? Is there a renewed level of gratitude or excitement? Could you tell, it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to tell with high school kids. Like you said, they're so resilient. They tend to take things better. They don't kind of really reflect as much as we do, as parents or as adults. But there was one thing that I think I saw watching kids was that there was finally this realization, and maybe it was good, maybe it wasn't, but there was this realization that some of this could be taken away from me, and really with no rhyme or reason, or without any warning. So did you find that made them or you more grateful for being out there?
Yeah, almost like any play. The old saying is play like it's your last game.
Right.
It could be kind of thing. And I think that was a little bit of a mantra. A little bit
Sure.
Coming into the next year was listen. We don't know. The shoe could drop again. Like we don't know. We didn't know at that point if we were even going to have, that second year in 21, and so even as the days approached and it got closer and closer, we were like, I don't know. I think we're good, but and So yeah, it was very much like that. We just give it up, give everything you got, because it could be taken away in an instant and without warning. And enjoy it.
Sure.
And and that's I think that's part of where, and I'll get into some of this later. We had a young lady that was that second year. Let me think if I do my math here. The second year she was a senior, I believe. And, so all the leadership things and stuff. And so one of the things that she brought was, and this may have been, some of the overlap from a previous regime kind of thing,
right.
Previous coach and teams and stuff. But her thing was celebrate everything. And that was huge, and especially in that moment, and so we're still doing it. We're still celebrating everything, something good happens, something bad happens. We're picking them up and, hey, we're celebrating that you get another at bat, or,
absolutely.
we know you're good.
I love that. And that's one of the things Brandon and I talk about a lot on this show is is you're starting to develop a culture, build a culture. And you came into a unique experience there at Olathe where you're putting your stamp on it, but you had a pretty good tradition that was already there too. I mean, you're talking about, as the listeners heard in the introduction, 11-time Final Four finishes, 13-time regional champs, 4 of those 6A state championship titles. Was there some things that as a coach you were intentional about wanting as to be as part of the program, or even maybe, like I like to say is, when people think of an Olathe Northwest softball player, what are they thinking about? Like what's that look like or whatever?
I think one of the things that when I first came in, there was some hesitancy from the upperclassmen that maybe didn't know me, because a lot of the girls that I knew were freshmen or sophomores, right, or even 8th graders, and so, and I was kind of like, it's going to be fine. Like, it's like, I got this, kind of thing. And I probably did a terrible job of selling it at the time, but, I try not to BS you. And I try to tell them how it is as much as I can, but, it's going to be fine, and the big question was, what about traditions? Are we going to have, we do this, and this, and and I'm like, I will carry on
right.
I'm not here to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
Like I want to keep this thing going, but here's the thing. I haven't been here, so I don't know the traditions. Right. So I'm going to need you as juniors and seniors that have been here to teach me what those are.
Yeah.
And just in that kind of began the relationship building that it takes to be a coach, mm-hmm. and began that culture and just that trust and their belief in me that, listen, he's not here to
uproot
make this his own and
right.
change everything and make it, it's got, my way or the highway, or, he's, whatever, all the cliches that you can throw out there. But, it is going to be fun, what I mean?
Right.
And so once we've learned, we got to learn some of those traditions, and we've done our best to carry them on and kind of build on them as well.
What have you found, Pez, to be the biggest difference between, you spent all those years coaching the guys, right, in baseball. And the reason I asked this question, because some of the listeners might be like, well, what do you mean? Like it's just athletes in general. Here's what I mean. The difference between coaching males and females that I have observed having coached my son's teams and then my daughter's teams is females. Well, the girls are a lot more literal about anything that you put out there. Like if you tell them X, go to this spot, they're going to that spot no matter what. The boys may be a little bit more freelance about some of those things that is frustrating for a coach. the beauty of the girls doing exactly what you tell them to do can sometimes also be the frustration, right? Because there's no ability to adapt, right?
Yeah.
Or so what have you found coaching both sides of it have been some of the differences?
Yeah, and some of that is you have to change how you say things because of who you're saying it to.
Yeah,
because like you say, go out to that X spot or whatever. The girls go out to that X spot, and you're like, I didn't mean that spot. I meant the area,
in general,
the vicinity, like the general, and so yeah, I completely understand what you're saying. But we, I don't know. I had an old coach one time, and this is not necessarily me saying this, but this is kind of a quote that kind of speaks to that. Is he said that the difference between coaching boys and girls, or men and women, is that if the boys have a problem, like if you have a problem, if I have a problem with you, we'll go out and behind the dugout, kick the crap out of each other, and it's over.
Right.
And we're moving on. It's good, and then with the girls, it's not like that, and there, I would say there is some truth to that, but how you handle that as a coach also plays a role too.
Sure.
Have you found some differences in the mental game, like just the ability to deal with adversity, the ability to let go of things, the ability to kind of, next pitch mentality, right? Like, has there been some differences you've seen in that regard as well?
I don't know. I've really honestly not put a lot of thought into, well, if that was a boy,
right, that's true.
If that was a boy, this is how they would respond. But
absolutely,
if it's a girl, then they're responding this way, and that's confusing for me because I'm a boy, and like I don't look at it like that, and do those comparisons. It's like this was my boys' team, and now this is my girls' team, and and so I look at every one of them as individuals, and they're all different, whether they're boys or girls. Like this year I had a team full of 14 varsity girls, and there was a lot of differences. And in each one of them, I mean, obviously there's some similarities as well too, but they you just kind of like, I think as Brandon said it earlier, you meet them where they are, and if and every day is different, and sometimes it's an emotional day,
100%,
and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's they're feeling something. They showed up late for practice, and you're kind of like, and so I kind of changed as well. Just instead of saying stuff like, hey, where you been? Practice started 5 minutes ago or 10 minutes ago, and so they come in to practice late. I was like, hey, is everything okay?
Right.
Well,
and you can have the same team come back. You could have everyone come back, and the dynamic could be different.
Yeah.
On the exact same players, because of everything, especially at that age, of all the pressure and all the things that they're going through. And then, like I'm watching it right now where, there are some expectations that when kids are coming back, that, hey, they were this good this year. He's got everybody coming back. They're going to do it again. Well, guess what? That team, all of a sudden, with the exact same players, maybe they're tight. Maybe they're like, it all depends on, at that age, it's a very difficult time for, it doesn't matter if it's men's or women's teams, to be able to compartmentalize things to get the exact same level of performance over one. I mean, that was a very difficult lesson, because not only from one season to the next, but hell, one inning to the next, like, it's
One pitch to the next.
One pitch to the next. I mean, think about it. What do we all know? If a pitcher is throwing a no-hitter, what do you make sure you don't do? Right? You don't talk to them.
Right.
Period. You let that nerd go hang out in the side of the corner of the dugout, and you don't mention it, because that same player that is absolutely shoving it for 6 innings may, if you bring it up, may be different in the 7th. So as a coach, that was something that was very, very difficult for me to understand early on. Was, hey, like, I have this whole team back. Like, we should be starting here at this particular baseline. And maybe you are from the IQ of the sport, but you may have to re-engineer certain things to get the same level of performance or exceed that.
Well, kind of to your point is the last year in 23, we went into regionals 20-0. Live up to that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And won 2 games in the regionals, and so we're going into state 22-0. Win our first game, we're 23-0. So,
wow.
We go into our semifinal game and play for 3 hours and 12 minutes and lose our first game of the year.
Wow.
At state.
Wow.
And then having to turn around in 24 after having lost 3 seniors that contributed, and to start all over again. And have to live up to that, because everybody's like, oh my God, they were blah 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 blah. This is
right.
What they were, and they didn't lose this. They lost. Whatever.
Yeah.
It's that there was a challenge there for sure.
There's no rhyme or reason in any of it. I mean, it's what's been the secret there for you guys. I mean, like I was mentioning earlier, I mean, the tradition's strong. You come in and you've, built on that tradition that was already there. I mean, what is it about your all's program? Is it just the area is getting a lot of good talent, or is it just the expectation? Or you all, I would imagine, probably pretty successful in other sports at that school as well, right? Is it one of those schools that just has kind of like that winning tradition?
What's funny is that we have not won. The school's been in existence since 2003, and we have not won one boys state championship.
Really?
Wow.
Team, I say. I don't know if I don't know about
sure. Right. Some wrestler did it or something.
Wrestler or track or something like that. But that doesn't mean they're bad. It's hard to win 6A state. It's not like, it's just extremely difficult,
Right. Yeah. Pretty good teams there.
Yeah. I mean, there's very good teams, and there's some excellent coaches and all the things. But I don't know. I think that one thing that we've tried to bring into the program, at least how I operate, is to build the relationships with the players. I think that's super important. Number one, you got to make it fun. You got to make them want to be there. You have to empower the girls, and we do that all the time. I mean, I'm like, hey, there's certain days, obviously, that, hey, we're going to do this, 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 and this, but there's some days, and quite a few days actually, where I go, hey, what do you as a team think we need to work on today?
That's good.
And then they give, and it's different for everybody, because someone's like, I need a hit because my hitting is, and then the other girls that are like, I need some ground balls, and I need to throw a bullpen. I need to, and so we make up a practice schedule right there on the spot. Okay, you do this. You how much time you need? 20, 30 minutes, whatever. You got 30 minutes of that. Okay, I need to coach so and so to go with this. You get some ground balls, and we need you in the cage, and then, okay, how many of you guys want to hit? And so we kind of figure it out that way, and then and it all works out to where it ends up being what I wanted to do in the first place.
Right.
but
I let them.
Sure.
I let them have
they have more ownership of it when it's
so
their
they have
idea.
ownership of it. Hey, my game is struggling at this point, or I need to do X because it's, like pitching a bullpen. It's my day, and so it's, it gives them, it empowers them. It makes them feel like that they are part of it, and that, they take ownership in it. And we do it in other ways as well. I have my seniors lead a lot of stuff. They, the stretching, I don't even, we cover it in preseason conditioning. And then I don't really, as coaches, we don't even mess with them.
Right.
It's, to us, it's girl time. They go out there and they take care of business, but they're talking, and they have a thing it's a question of the day that the seniors come up with. And so then they're like, then they go around, what's your, it starts off kind of lame, like, well, what's your favorite color? And, well, mine's blue, whatever. It goes, it goes all the way around, and so they kind of get to know each other. And then, as the season goes on, the question of the day gets harder, and I'm out of it. So I don't know what they're talking about up there half the time. So, but they're talking, and, communicating and getting to know each other. And that's huge. They're building those relationships with themselves as well,
Absolutely.
So, and we just have a few more minutes here. I want to ask you a couple of things, though. 2 more questions, if you have a minute. One is, I'm always fascinated. One of the things that I like when we have coaches on that are at the high school level, because Brandon and I talk about, the importance of mental performance coaching at an early age, and really kind of how important it is that parents kind of get involved in some of that and have an important role at a very early age. But then as they get into high school, coaches and stuff, are there certain pain points, if you will, or certain things that you've noticed about players at that age in particular that, is it just a matter of like trying to bounce back from adversity, handling pressure situations? Like what do you see is still a big struggle for a lot of those athletes?
That's a good question. I want to say that it's different with everybody. Mm-hmm. And that's like, honestly, I kind of think that's kind of why I'm good at what I do.
Yeah.
Without being arrogant, just because sure. I look at each individual and treat them like they're my own kid.
Yeah.
And 2, coach them with love and tell them that.
Right.
And when you can do that, they know you care, and they know that they can come to you with whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, when we've all had coaches that are, when balls hit to shortstop and they miss it, and they're yelling out of the dugout, field the ball.
Right. Yeah.
You're like, thanks, coach. That was a good one. Good drop right there. That's good. Good right. Tip. That's because I wasn't trying to do that.
Exactly.
Right.
So I lied to you.
I also like we start off at the parent meeting. One of the things I say at the parent meeting is like, is the same sort of thing. Is like, you have a kid and say you have a pitcher out there and they're struggling a little bit, and you're, maybe their parent in the crowd, and you're like, come on, Sally, throw strikes. Thanks. Right. Nailed it on the head.
Yeah.
Well done. So, or they say, don't walk her. Okay.
Right.
So this is important. Okay. So they say, don't walk her. And so the pitcher, the last thing they heard in their head was don't, which is a negative thought. Right.
Yeah. Yep.
And so they're out there. Okay. Don't walk her. Don't, and so how do you play with a negative mindset?
Right.
You know what
Absolutely.
I mean? And how do you play free and able to be at your best? I mean, if you're playing loose and you're playing, I mean, not you got to be locked in, obviously. Mm-hmm. If you don't have that extra, maybe it's mom or maybe it's dad in your ear about, throwing negative stuff in here, and Because, you know, you hear there could be 10,000 people in the crowd and you're going to hear your mom.
For sure.
You know, or your dad.
For sure.
Guarantee it, you know, because you know that voice.
Yeah.
And so it's, you know, if they can, and so I just talked to the parents about changing how they say things and how they cheer. You know, we want you to be there. We want you to be supportive. We want you to be positive, though. You know, we don't want you to say don't things, but say, you know, come on, you got this.
Right.
You know, or something, you know,
Positive
turn that negative thought into a positive thought and something that's uplifting rather than, you know, demeaning or degrading or, you know, knocking them down.
Yeah.
Well, we've had clinicians on here that will tell you the human brain cannot process the negative, the don't, that, or we can't do that. So if I say, don't think of a blue elephant, by God, the first thing you're going to think of is a blue elephant. We don't have the ability to differentiate. Our brains can't process that to block that out. They only are going to process the last thing that you kind of said there. So it's interesting that you bring that up.
Yeah, I think it's super important. I mean, a lot of the parents kind of going, he's trying to tell me what to say. Right. and frankly,
somebody has.
I am actually.
Right? I am but it's for the good of the team. And
it's for our culture and for the success of your daughter. So
right. So one more. I have one more question, and I have my $1 million question I like to ask. But I did have one more question for you. Made me think about it. Is, you know, you're coaching at this level, and I'm curious where, in your opinion, and maybe this is a loaded question, but in your opinion, where do you feel like we're getting it right with youth sports, and where do you feel like we could still do better? And I say we because I think we all have ownership in these things. So what do you like that you're seeing, and what do you think is something that we probably all collectively could do a better job with?
Well, that's big. I think that from what I've seen in the last few years is that it is kind of just like everything else in the world. It's driven by money, and especially like the club sports. And you know, and I get it, but there's got to be some kind of balance. I mean, you know, case in point, we know when 6 years ago when we were playing glove ball, the, you know, gate entry fee is $6. Right. It's 12 now.
Right.
15 in some places. You know, and these are for parents that are forking over
a lot,
thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
To have their kid on this team that should cover tournament fees and all that stuff, and then they go to watch their kid play, and it costs $24 for one of them to be at the park for 2 days. You know, and you know, it just, you know, it's crazy because, you know, that's just one side of it. You look at the other side is, well, why are they playing on that team then if you can't afford it?
Right. And
then the other side is, well, you're the one that signed up, and that's great, but you know what you're getting out of it is a potential college scholarship at the end of the, you know, at the end of the tunnel, right? Well, guess what that's about? Money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's everything is about money, or not having to pay money, or having to pay less money, or you know, bat companies are making $500 bats.
Yeah.
Right.
Are they really worth $500?
Right.
Yeah.
You know.
So where do you think we got it figured out, or at least you'd like to see it continue down the road? Is there something that you really like about what?
I think that, you know, that there's organizations like, you know, the NFCA and am I saying that right? Jeez, I should have checked that before I said that. The
NFHS, the National
no, not
Federation.
that. I mean, I'm not saying that one's wrong either. I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't want them on my back.
Right.
I mean, it's
Oh, the Coaches
the Coaches
Association.
Association.
Yeah. I'm with you.
That they have conferences, and I think one thing that they're doing well, and I need to be more of an active member probably, but they they have these conferences, and they have the big conferences, and they have smaller conferences around the country, right. and at the end of the day, what they're trying to accomplish is training, and teaching, whether it's the old coach, the middle-aged coach, it's been around a little bit, but still needs to is looking for that to tweak what they do, and then the crop of young coaches that are coming in, and that are still a little bit wet behind the ears and everything, and that they want to learn how do I get to be to stay in the game for longer, and to make a difference, and to do it well. And I think that they do a fantastic job of getting those, stuff out, even if it's just watching tutorials online that they put out on their website.
So you teed it up nicely for me, Pez. Then the last question I have for you is, as you entering in, what's this now? Got to be close to 30 years of coaching. Are we
31? I think
31. So if I gave you a chance, go back, talk to younger version of yourself, right? You get to pick the age or the time in your coaching career, but what advice are you giving that young Coach Lopez?
Well, I think I'd probably go back further to maybe the player, and maybe teach myself how to respond and not react. As you guys both know, I was a little intense as a player, and which I think that's on. I don't regret a lot of that stuff, but I think that it could have been done a lot better, and a lot. If the kind of if I knew then what I know now, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
where does that come from, though? Let me stop you there. Where does that come from? Like, what was it? What was the moment as a coach, maybe, that has made you reflect and say, "Hey, I wish I could go back and talk to the player"? Is it just because you've seen that, as we talk about, signal lights, right? Like the player who's playing in this red light situation where they're completely out of control through frustration, whatever the case may be, it's not as effective. Like, is that
I don't know. A lot of this stuff we learned in class when I was at KU. It's part of my degree, so I actually learned something in college.
Yeah.
So that was amazing. And but you, like I said, you don't sometimes learn it really until you are doing it. And so as I was coaching, and when I was young, making those mistakes and maybe getting heated with somebody, that they what you have to understand as a coach is that maybe you played at this level, or your abilities, or at least in your brain, are at this level, right?
Right.
And the kids you're coaching are not at that level. They'll say, here at this level, right? And you, as a coach, think, well, if I tell them something, they're going to go from this player to that player.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And that's the hardest thing to do is that. And what you have to understand as a coach, and it's a whole bunch of patience, and it's a whole bunch of, it's struggle. How am I going to get this kid there? But you have to understand that it's like a staircase. They can't jump 15 stairs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At one time, they have to go step by step by step. They may every now and then skip a step, but they still got, they're not going to skip, 10 to 15 steps to get up that staircase.
Yeah.
And so it's a process, and I know that's cliche, but it's such it's a process. And that's why when you have, I always kind of say, this kind of speaks to our success this year, is that we were juniors and seniors heavy. Whereas in the past, Like even last year, we had 6 girls that are contributing hard, and they're sophomores.
Wow.
To our last year's team. You know, why couldn't we score more than 1 run against a girl that's going to Nebraska?
Yeah.
You know, because half the team is sophomores. We're babies.
Right.
You know what I mean? And we needed to take that step, and so we can get to where we were this year. And so now we are juniors and seniors. Now you can take that as long as you want and throw that into the college game where you throw in the COVID year.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And so these coaches have gotten used to, in the past 5 years, coaching super seniors, seniors, and juniors, right? So these freshmen and sophomores are kind of going, listen, I'm good enough to play on this team, but my coach wants to play older kids.
Right.
Because, well, they're older.
Yeah.
And they know more. And just like you and I, both you guys, the union, and we know more now than we knew then.
Absolutely.
And it's just like you know more, you've trained longer, you're bigger, you're faster, you're stronger, or and those kind of things. And they don't want to go young again and deal with the slow developing and the trials and tribulations of that those first couple learning years. And so enter the transfer portal. People are bouncing around and who gets picked up first?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Juniors and seniors.
Yep. Absolutely.
So it's kind of
it's a vicious cycle.
It is a vicious cycle.
Yeah. It's a vicious cycle. Well, man, we are I can't tell you how happy we are that we were able to finally get this to happen. And we're both ultra proud of you. I mean,
Absolutely.
Just everything you're doing, all of the great success, just watching, the impact you have on kids, like, Brandon was talking about earlier, in that perspective you gained, whether at Washington, at Center High School, and then being able to do the great stuff you're doing there at Olathe is just really, really, we're pulling from you from afar, but it's just the same thing that Brandon and I talked about when Fox, and I think you and I texted each other a little bit back when they were going for Mississippi State was going to win that title.
Yeah.
I mean, we're a brotherhood. Yeah. And so we're, you kind of like, you see it on the periphery, but at the same time, you feel like you're right there in the dugout with you. So congrats on everything that you're doing. We're really excited for you.
Well, I appreciate that. I just, one thing that I did want to say is that, it's not just me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm blessed to have so many, along the way, assistant coaches and mentors, and my assistant coaches do so much work, and but they enjoy coming to practice, and that's part of that culture. And
right.
And it's, it's just been awesome. And I'm super proud of their development as well. And I try to do everything I can to have some of my old ageness, also known as experience.
Wisdom. We call it wisdom, Pez.
Wisdom, is that the word?
That's the word you're looking for. Wisdom.
Right. Well, wisdom, I don't know. It seems like it's patting myself on the back, and I'm not comfortable doing that. But they, they've done a fantastic job, and they're going to be some amazing coaches as time goes on. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, very cool. All right, brother. Well, we'll get up with you sometime soon here in the future, but we can't thank you enough for joining us tonight. It was awesome.
Of course. I appreciate you thinking about me and being there. It's great to see you guys. And if we get one more, I think we could have a foursome on the course here.
Hey, yeah, for sure. Hey, that's not a problem. Meet up in Nashville.
Yeah.
Next time.
Nashville?
Yeah. How convenient.
Really? Yeah. Hey, you don't say. Oh.
Next time
it's a midpoint.
Yeah. Hey, John, remind me, where do you live?
Yeah. Next time they have like the ABCA or one of those conferences out here, you'll come into town and we'll get Brandon over.
There we go.
Or if they have it in Atlanta, we could go to Atlanta.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
What if they have it in Kansas?
Or Kansas City, that's true. Yeah,
I mean,
we could go out to a Chiefs game or something.
I'm down to going back to the old stomping grounds in Kansas City.
Yeah, get some of that barbecue out there.
Yeah,
that's right, Brandon. That's where Brandon was born.
No, but
lived early
4 or 5 years. 5 years out there. Yeah,
little developmental years
out there in Shawnee Mission.
Do you know where that is, Pez?
Shawnee Mission. They got 5 teams in our Sunflower League conference.
Yeah. Nice.
Sunflower League, I guess, our league.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Awesome.
That's surprising.
All right, guys. Great seeing you.
Pez, great seeing you,
We'll talk to you soon.
Congratulations.
Right.
Thanks.
Talk to you later, brothers.
Bye.
Want to provide feedback or stay up to date with the show? Visit our Instagram page at Mental Advantage Podcast, or you can send us an email at podcast@mentaladvantage.net. To have John Cullen work with you or your team, please write to him at john.cullen@mentaladvantage.net. Thanks for listening to today's episode.